All right, so we have a bunch of moving averages here. We can see, so rule number one, or step number one, is we're looking for the two faster moving averages to cross each other. And then step two, we need a candle here to touch the slower moving average. And then we need another candle to pull back to the fastest moving average, and then wait for a candle to not touch the middle moving average. So that would be the SMA 20. All right, so there we go. There's a bunch of system rules there. All right, so the next thing I need to do is look through the chart and find some areas that look like we should have a signal. Oh, here we go. All right, so we have the crossover there, and we have the pull over there, or pull back there. All right, let's take a look at that screenshot again. All right, so we get a crossover, so we need a bar to touch the 40, and there we go. So we have a bar touching the 40. All right, and then a pullback to the 20. All right, yep, that would be the signal bar. All right, well, we got an area to work with on our chart. Yeah, there we go. So basically, that's where we're expecting to see a signal there. Let's see. All right, first thing to do here, let's get BloodHound open. Right, so you guys can see I have BloodHound on the bottom of my chart already. So we're going to use the button on the top of the chart here. It says empty template. Click that. And now I'm going to switch over to the logic tab, and we're going to create a new logic template. Hit the new button here. Cross with the pullback. All right, something like that. All right, so it's crossover with pullback, but we also need the bar to be cleared to clear the moving average. All right, let's do the easy ones first here, right? So we're looking for basically a moving average crossover right there. That's the easy part. So let's just grab a crossover solver here, put it on the board, and this is an EMA 10 crossing over an SMA 20. All right, so input A, that'll be our faster moving average. So let's plug in the EMA 10. There's the EMA. Yeah, put in a 10 period. All done there. All right, the SMA. So the SMA is the default indicator, so we just need to change it to a 20 period, like so. All right, there, let's see, and things aren't quite lining up. Let's see, SMA, EMA 10, SMA 20. Let's see, my indicator's wrong. Let's see, EMA 10. Yeah, I was just trying to figure out what am I not seeing. That's should be pretty obvious. Yeah, EMA 10 over SMA 20. And this is definitely an EMA 10 and an SMA 20. Let's see. Yeah, I don't have any displacement going on. What? Let me... Oh, there we go. Yeah, that was weird. All right. So it looked like I just needed a chart refresh for some reason. Okay, cool. There we go. So now all the crossover signals are lining up. Yeah, we can see here that actually in a couple of spots the EMA is doing a, like a triple crossover there in a couple of spots. Okay, so all right, that was step one. There we go. And if you like to, we could do something like this. Put a number 1 in the name, something like that. Bingo, number 1. All right, there's that. Now let's pull up a screenshot again. All right, step 2 or rule number 2. All right, the candle must touch the 40 SMA. So it doesn't have to close above it, just needs to touch it. Right? So, what is touching something? Well, basically that's using the high the high point, right? The high of the bar. So whether it's the high being the close of the bar or the high just being the high wick of the bar. So we need the high price to be above the SMA 40 here, all right? So let's see, that would be, yeah, that is this bar right there. Let's stretch this out a little bit. All right, that bar right there touched it. So for that, we're going to use a comparison solver, right? So we're going to compare, right? So if we're looking for basically, right, a long cross up, we're going to be using the high of the bar. And if it's the opposite direction, if it's, right, a cross down, then we would be using the low of the bar. And so for this long signal, we want to make sure that the high of the bar is above the 40 SMA, right? And that is basically what, for a long condition, that would be, right, the bar touching the SMA 40 if the high is above it. So let's pull this over here and let's name this number 2. All right, so we're looking at either the high price for a long or the low price for a short. Let's see, we want that to be above or below the SMA 40. All right, so input A is going to be our high and low prices. So we're going to change the type to price, right? Okay, and so for a long signal, for a long condition, we're using the high price, and then for a short, right, we're using the low price. All right, and then input B, right, that's going to be our SMA 40. So, all right, the SMA is already selected for us. That's the default indicator. So now let's just go 40 period, call it good, and we should plug this in. There we go. Cool. All right, so as long as the high of the bar is above the SMA 40, we're going to get a long output there, like so. All right, so we have our crossover signal there. We have rule number 2 is, let's see here. Yeah, so our crossover happened back on this bar, and then a bar touching the SMA 40 happened 1 bar later. So that's number 1 and number 2. And so let's work on number 3. All right, so step 3 needs to be a different candle, all right, after the SMA 40 touch. All right, so we'll have to kind of make a mental note and get back to this. So, but the important thing we can do now is now we need a pullback, or basically the bar needs to now touch the EMA 10, right, our blue moving average. So we need a bar, yep, touching the blue. And that would be this bar here, our third green arrow. So in this case, we need the low price to be below the moving average, right? And that would be considered, right, the bar touching the EMA 10 if the low, right, is below that EMA 10. So let's grab another comparison solver. And let's name this solver here first. All right, so this is going to be number 3. So this time it's going to be the low for a long and the high for a short. And we want the low below or the high above the EMA 10. There. All right, so input A, again, that's going to be price, right? Bar prices. So for long, we're using the low price this time. And then for, if it was a short, we'd reverse this, so we'd be using the high price. Okay, and then indicator B, that's going to be our EMA 10. There's our EMA. Let's make it a 10 period, call it good. And let's see here. Oh, we need to adjust, let's pull this down. We need to adjust our outputs here. right? So the low has to be less than our moving average, right? The low price is below or less than the moving average. So, right? So remember, our low price is input A, and we want A to be less or below B, and B is our moving average. So we need to reverse these outputs like this. Like so. There. And what we're looking for is, right, we can see BloodHound here is giving us a long output when the bar is touching the EMA 10. So, well, yeah, in this case, in this bar it's not touching it. So this technically, just one solver is technically not a touch by definition, but really all we need to do is just make sure that the low goes below the moving average. So we know that this first bar is a touch. This second bar, was actually completely below it, so it's not touching the moving average, but that's okay because the first bar that breaks below the moving average, that'll be the touching bar. Right. And so we don't have to worry about the bars afterwards. All right, next, number 4 here. All right, so the signal needs to be on any bar that does not, where the open and close, basically aren't below the SMA 20. So remember, the SMA 20 is the white line here. So we just need to make sure that either the open, or the close we need to make sure that the open and the close are both above the SMA 20, basically is what this is saying. Right? So, because it says right there, wicks touching is okay. Right? So so we're not looking at the low price of the bar. We just need to look at the open and the close and make sure that they're both above the SMA 20. All right, so again, this is a job for another comparison solver. Let's grab the comparison solver, plug that in. All right, so this is a number 4. So this time we're going to make sure that the open is either above or below the SMA 20. All right, so input A is the bar prices again, and we are comparing the open price, right, for both long and short signals, and then our indicator is the SMA 20, and for a long, we want A to be greater than B, right? We want the open price to be greater than or above the SMA 20. All right, so we're good there. So now we need another solver just like this, but we need to look at the close price, right, instead of the open price. So what I'm going to do is I can go to the solvers tab, right? I can click on the number 4 open above or below SMA 20, make a copy of it, and this time we're going to switch it over to the close price. So there, switch this over. There. Now we're comparing the closing price to the SMA 20 and making sure that the closing price is above the SMA 20. Right? Okay, so let's switch it back over to the logic tab. And now we go to our solver nodes, existing nodes. And right there is that new solver that we just made, right? That says the close above or below the SMA 20. Just drop that on there and connect that up. Yeah, and simply put, we can see if the closing price is above our SMA 20. So let's see here. So these two guys need to work together like so. So really, it's taking 2 solvers here to make up step number 4. Right? And so there we go. We can see all the bars where the open and the close is above the SMA 20, or if the open and close is below the SMA 20, like so. All right, so we have we have a bunch of solvers here. Now we just need to kind of connect them all up, and string them together in a way here. But before we get to that, let me just take a look at these rules here. Oh, right. Step number 3 here. We have a critical rule here. So if any candle before step 4 completely opens and closes on the wrong side of the SMA 20, the trade is off. Right. So we have a condition here that's checking whether the open and close are completely on one side of the white line or SMA 20 or not. So this logic here has two functions. Let's see, its primary function, right, is basically step number 4, but also it's a disqualifier, that's a part of step number 3. Let's pull this up here, right? So that logic, is the qualification for step number 4, but it also acts as a disqualifier for step number 3 as well. So in other words, if we get a short, so you see these short signals here, that means the open and the close is below the SMA 20, and that would nullify or cancel out, right, this long setup here, right? We cancel out this long setup here, and we'll kind of get back to that in a moment. All right. So now what we need to do, right? Let's take a look, right? So here's step number 1, right? Our fast moving averages crossing each other, and the next step is we need to get this signal all the way over to our signal bar, right? So this crossover condition, right, this output needs to be transferred forward in time until we get to the actual signal bar. And then same thing for step number 2, right? So we have a signal, or an output coming from this bar, and it also needs to be transferred all the way over to the signal bar, either transferred or basically extended forward in time until we get to the signal bar. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use toggle nodes in this instance. And the reason why I can use toggle nodes is because, remember, I have this logic here, which acts as a disqualifier as well as a qualifier. So, so if this logic here, right, let's connect that up. Remember, if this logic produces, a short output, so let's say, so if we had like a short output over here, remember, it would disqualify this long setup. And so I could use that to turn the toggle node off. Because remember, the toggle nodes have a reset connection. And a reset basically turns the toggle node off, right? It resets the toggle node back to an off position, if that's what we want it to do. So we could take the crossover and feed it in there. What's going to happen at this point is basically, right, whenever the fast moving averages cross each other, right, we can see they're crossing each other. And so the toggle node is basically holding on to that crossover signal. So it's taking that short cross down and holding on to it until we get to the next cross up, and it's holding on to the cross up until we get to the next cross down, cross up, cross down, and so forth, right? So this toggle node is basically taking this crossover signal, right, and it's holding on to it for as long as we need it to. And then when we get to the signal bar, we can then turn our toggle node off. And so let's see here. So the next thing we're going to need to do is take our basically our disqualifier. So remember, rule number 4 here can also act as a disqualifier. So I connected it into the reset of the toggle. And then on the toggle node down here in the resets, if we get an opposite signal, right? So right now, right, the toggle node is holding on to a long condition here, right? It's holding on to a long output here. So our toggle node is holding on to this long signal, but remember, I used, this red diamond here to remind us that, where is it? Yeah, let's connect this back up. We're going to get a short output if the open and the close goes below our SMA 20 here, right? Which that's our disqualifier down here as part of step number 3, right? If the open price or the close, goes, so if we're in a long situation, if it goes below the SMA 20, then that disqualifies it. And so, so what are we getting out of this logic here? Right? We're getting a short signal, right? We're getting short signals out of it. So if the toggle node is holding on to a long, right? A short is opposite of a long signal. So that's why I'm using on opposite signal. On opposite signal, we're going to turn the signal. We're going to turn the toggle node off, right? We're turning the toggle node off. Yeah. Let's see. I wonder if that, yeah, that does happen. Look right here. Yeah, so right there. No, that doesn't happen there. Hold on. I'm looking at something else. Yeah, here we go. Perfect. So here's a good example of a long, setup here getting disqualified. So we had the moving averages cross right there. But then, right, this bar right here, right, if you look at it, its open and its close is below the white moving average, right, below our SMA 20. And so that turned the toggle node off, right? So we had the toggle node was turned on here because of the crossover. And it looks like we actually had a triple crossover here of our moving averages. Yeah, let's take a quick look at that. So, yeah, so our fast moving averages here crossed up, crossed down, and then crossed back up again. So that's why we're kind of seeing this long, nothing, and then long here. So basically our toggle node is turned on, and it normally would have stayed on much longer, right? It would have normally stayed on all the way over here, but because we had the open and close below our moving average, right? Basically, this logic here going into the reset turned our toggle node off. All right, so this toggle node here is all ready to go. It's taking our step number 1 and extending it forward until we get a disqualifying bar here as a part of step number 3. Or, of course, until our moving averages cross in the wrong direction. So there's that. Let's see. We also need to take number 2. So step number 2, right? The candle needs to touch the SMA 40. That also needs to be extended forward in time, right? Until we get to step 4 or the signal bar. So again, let's grab a toggle node and connect that in there. And let's see, what do we have to work with here? Yeah, all of these are above the SMA 40. Well, Gary, I'm kind of wondering if you forgot to include a rule. I'm wondering if you needed the SMAs to all be stacked, in this reverse order here first. Maybe we need a step 0, or included with step 1, you need all these SMAs stacked in the right in the opposite direction, right? The slower one on top, the faster one on the bottom, something like that. Okay, so I guess not. All right, we'll just keep going then. All right, so back to where we're at. Okay, so we're taking step number 2, right? And so we can see that basically all these bars are, above the SMA 40. So step number 2 is basically done. That just needs to be extended forward onto this to the signal bar here. And so let's actually go back here. All right, so this is where we're working here. So this is our step number 2 bar here. So let's just mark this. There we go, 2 dots. And basically 1 dot there, so that's step 1, there's step 2. So we now need to take the output from step number 2 and extend it forward to the signal bar. So we're going to do that with a toggle node here. And again, we're going to use our logic here as the disqualifier to turn this toggle node off as well. And so again, the opposite signal will turn the toggle node off, right? So basically both of these toggle nodes are going to be exactly the same. So this toggle node here, right, on the reset section it had on opposite signal, force off. And this toggle node, the second one down here, also we have on opposite signal, and we're going to force the toggle node off. There, let's move that back a little bit there. Okay, so let's see here. And then step number 3, same thing. If we go on our little screenshot here, step number 3, right, has basically this step number 3 is like the pullback bar, right? And we need it to touch the EMA 10, and then after that, so we might need to extend this one by a bar or 2, a couple of bars, right? A bar or 2 as well. So let's grab another toggle node and we'll connect that in and take our disqualifier, connect that into the toggle node. And again, for the resets, we'll take the opposite signal and use that to force the toggle node off. There. Let's take a look at that. All right, so there we go. So this is our step number 3 bar here. And we're taking that and extending it forward until we get to the signal bar. And let's see, the signal bar. To get to the signal bar, we now need to include, right, this logic here for step number 4. So what I need to do now is grab a AND node, right, and just wait for all these toggle nodes to all have an output. And then also rule number 4, right, so when all that's true, we're good to go. And let's see here. Yeah, so we can see we're going to need to make some adjustments here. Yeah, it's not quite all ready to go yet. Because we're getting a signal here on basically step number 2. And that's because, yeah, this bar here does touch our fast moving average, right, our EMA 10. But so step number 2 and step number 3 need to be separated by a couple of bars here. We'll see, where is that? Yeah, here we go. So, right, the qualification here for step number 3 is we need a different candle. So after the SMA 40 touch, then the pullback. So rule 1 and rule 2, they're going to go into their own AND node, right? So we have, step 1, or rule number 1, the crossover, but also, and then step 2, we need the candle touching the 40, but sometimes, right, step 1 and 2 can happen at the same time. But when we're going, so step 3 needs to be separated from step 2 and step 1. There needs to be a few bars in between. Actually, I'm sorry, that's going from step 3 to step 4. Let's go back to our logic here. So actually that could go into that. There we go. So step 1, 2, and 3. And just for good measure, we can name these toggle nodes here. There, let's name these toggle nodes. So I have them all going into an AND node. Let's take a look. Well, so actually this, you know what? I guess, technically according to the rules, bar number 2 can also be bar number 3, as we can see what happened here. All right, so now we just need at least a couple of bars of separation until we get to bar number 4. So to do that, to make sure that there's at least one bar of separation, we're going to use the look back node. Tie that in there. And we're going to use the displacement function. And so that's going to shift this, that's going to shift basically when step 1, 2, and 3, when they all occur, that's going to take that and shift it forward by at least one bar to make sure that step 4 is offset by at least one bar. So we're going to leave the displacement to 1 there. I'm going to name that displacement 1. So if we look at this, just put a few dots up there to remind us. All right, so there we go. So this is step 2, and also it is step 3. And then, right, so I took the signal that we had on this from our AND node, and using the look back node, I shifted it forward one bar. So that means, so that makes sure that, this bar back here doesn't also qualify for step number 4. I guess it couldn't because, it could because, step 4 just says we can't touch the SMA 40. Or I should say the open and close need to be above the SMA 40, which it is, there. So this could also qualify for, let's plug that in here. Let's connect this up. Nope. Yeah. So we're looking at, we're looking at our logic here. Let's zoom in a little bit. There, right? Because this was step number 4. And we can see, all of these bars here qualify for step number 4 because they're all above, their open and closing price are all above the SMA 20. So this single bar here, it performed step 2, step 3, and step 4 all in one bar. But as our screenshot tells us, we need a different candle after the SMA 40 touch. After the SMA 40 touch. All right, hold on. Oh, sorry. All right, guys. My original thought was correct. I do need to separate step 2 and step 3, but step 3 and step 4 could be the same bar here. Yeah, we got a little comment in here, which is good. Yeah, so it says, yeah, step 4, this could be the same candle as step 3. So step 3 and 4 could be the same candle, but step 2 and 3 need to be different candles. All right, sorry about that. Yeah, my original thought was I was on the right track originally. So yeah, let's do some readjustments. All right, so let's disconnect that there. All right, so looking at our logic. There. All right, so step 1 and 2 could be the same bar, so it's going into the same AND node, and then we're using the look back so that we're separating the bar from step 2 from the bar from step 3. All right. Now we can, yeah, pull this out like that. So basically, after the look back, we can then connect step 1 and 2 to step 3. Yeah, so here's the step 2 bar, and so we need to make sure that the step 3 bar is a separate bar from step 2. So let's connect that in. Yeah, there we go. All right. So we've taken basically the signal here from step 2 and required that the step 3 bar be separate. So there's the step 3 bar. And let's see, we could also, yeah, if you remember, the rules said that step 4 and 3 could actually be on the same bar here. So let's see, this AND node here, let's mark this up. This could be number 1 and number 2. This one is number 3 and number 4. There. All right. So remember, guys, it's really helpful if, if you do name stuff like this, it's really helpful to help you keep track of, where certain conditions are coming together. So, yeah. Let's take a look what we have so far. And perfect. So we actually have a signal here on our signal bar. Cool. So, we're getting very close here. Now we have a little bit of cleanup work to do here. So we can see, we're getting some random signals over here. We're getting a signal here that we need to get rid of. We need to do a little bit of cleaning up, right? So what's happening is our toggle nodes are not necessarily getting turned off when we need them, right? So, yeah, so when step 4 happens, remember step 4 is the signal bar. And so the bar afterwards, we can use step 4 to make sure that these toggle nodes are turned off. And right, so right now we are using step 4 to turn the toggle nodes off. Remember, when the open and close goes below the SMA 20, right? So let's pull this back up here, right? So on step 3 here, our little disqualifier here is to make sure that right? Make sure that the open and the close are not on the wrong side of the SMA 20. But also, we can use step 4 here, which is the signal bar, to also turn off the toggle nodes. Right, so let's take a look. Let's take a look at this toggle node right here. Right, so we're using an opposite signal to turn the toggle node off, but we could also use the signal, which, right, we could use the bar number 4 signal. So I probably need a bunch of dots here to remind us this is the step 4 number bar. There. So when this, so when step 4 occurs, we can use that condition to also turn off the toggle nodes. But we don't want to turn it off on the step 4 bar. We want to wait until one bar after. So the bar after is when we want to turn off our toggle nodes here. So we're going to use a look back node there. And we're going to use the displacement function, right? So that's basically, it's going to take the step 4 signal and shift it forward one bar. So that way we get the step 4 signal one bar late, and then use that one bar late to then turn off the toggle nodes. So let's name this. This is a displacement 1 function. And so we're going to need, let's see here, we're going to need a bunch of OR nodes as well. All right. Right, so right now we're taking the signal from this AND node and it's going straight in to the reset. But we also need this displaced signal going into the toggle node into the reset as well. So to do that, we're going to use an OR node. Right, like that. All right, so just a reminder here. You know, this kind of looks kind of funny, you know, from a simple perspective. You know, in that, why would we have the AND node going into an OR node plus a displaced signal going in? Right, so remember the AND node that's going straight into the OR into the reset, that is when the AND node is producing a short signal out of it, right? So, right, that's when, you know, that's when the open and the close is below the SMA 20 for that, when that step 4 is producing the disqualification signal, you know, that goes straight to the toggle node immediately, right? Yeah. So when this is producing the disqualification signal, which is going to be a short, that needs to go right into the toggle node immediately. But when it's the step 4 signal, you know, the long signal of step 4, which is for the signal bar, well, that needs to be delayed by 1 bar because we don't want to turn the toggle nodes off on the signal bar, right? We want to turn the toggle nodes off after the signal gets through. Right, and then we want to turn the toggle nodes off. So that is why we're having to take the AND node straight into the OR and using a displaced signal into the OR node as well. All right, so let's just kind of finish up the rest of this logic here. So that goes in there. And that goes there, that goes there. And we'll just kind of line everything up, make it look a little prettier. There. All right. I think that should do it. Let's take a look. Uh-oh, no. We killed something here. Well, let's see if we have our 1 and 2. No, we don't. Oh, right. So yeah, I remember from earlier, this step 2 bar also meets the requirements of step 3 and step 4. So this one bar has all, meets all these step requirements. If I connect number 2 up, right, we're getting a long signal on this bar here. This is quite the mystery bar, quite the magical bar. There, so we're getting a long signal on that, right? And that's our step number 2. And then if I plug step number 3 in, yep. So this bar here has a long signal for step 3. And then if I take step 4, yeah, see on this same bar there's a long output there. That means it qualifies for step 4 as well. Yeah, this is not quite working out as expected. I might have to use something other than toggle nodes here. Or we need to figure out a way, some other way to reset the toggle nodes. I'm just not seeing anything easy to do about resetting these toggle nodes. Yeah, so again, we're back to our original problem here that we need to solve, which is to get rid of these extra, signals, after the signal bar. So we want to keep this signal here. Right, this is our good signal, but we need to turn those toggle nodes off so we don't get these signals afterwards. Gary's saying that a 610 tick chart seems cleaner for the signals. Yeah, minute charts, tick charts, volume charts, they basically all look the same. You can use them basically interchangeably when you're building a system, because they all those 3 bar or those 3 chart types, have varying ranging bars within them. So generally speaking, the variation, in the bar lengths and everything, they all basically are very, very similar, in the way that they look, having sometimes short bars and sometimes long bars, right? So even a 610 tick chart could also have a long bar like this, that creates these kind of random events. So, and that, and so if you're building a system, using a minute, tick, or volume chart, you want to actually, find these kind of unique situations where, one bar might meet multiple rules or something like that. So that way you can set up your logic properly to, account for, this randomness that the market can throw at you. One thing that you want to account for when you're building a system is, while it's nice to build your system on a perfect setup like this, but you want to also account for those times where you just get some random weird stuff where the charts aren't clean, looking, right? Where you just get kind of dirty random bars all over the place, you know, so that way you can build a better logic structure to account for, you know, to account for weird situations where one bar, you know, meets several conditions. All right, well, I'm going to try something kind of extreme here, because really what I need to do, the only thing I really need to do, right, is take the toggle node for the crossover condition, right, the step number 1 toggle node, and really all I need to do is turn off only one of these toggle nodes. And so I'm just going to use the step number 1, the step number 1 toggle node, which is our fast moving average crossover, and I'm just going to focus on trying to turn that one off when we get the signal bar, right? When we actually get a signal bar here. Yeah, so to do that, wow. All right. Yeah, this is going to be a little crazy here, but I'm just going to speed through this just to build it as fast as I can, so we're not taking too long on all this stuff, and test my idea out. And if my idea works, then I'll explain it to you guys. And all right, I think I'm getting close, but I'm going to have to rework this logic. Oh. All right, there we go. That worked. But also, all right, yeah, I need one last component here. All right, and I'll explain what I'm doing here in just a moment here. So yeah, I had to make a pretty deleted that node by accident. Yeah, I had to make a little kind of simple tweak to the whole system design here. Simple tweak. Well, actually, to the reset design. Sorry, I had to tweak the reset design here for the toggle nodes. Yeah, or at least for one of the toggle nodes. There. All right. That's exactly what I wanted to see. So what we're looking at is, so remember, this is the toggle node for step number 1, right? Step number 1 is our fast moving averages crossing over each other. And so we have the crossover, and then so we take this crossover signal, right? And we extended it forward until we actually got the signal bar, right? And then after the signal bar, that toggle node turns off, and now there's no risk of getting any, false positive signals after the first signal bar, right? And of course, what we're seeing now is, right, the moving average, the fast moving average is right crossed down, and so the toggle node stays on, and the fast moving averages cross back up, and it stays on, and cross back down, right? So we're just seeing basically all these, our fast moving averages just crossing up and crossing down. you know, so on and so forth. You know, but that's okay because, right, the other steps, you know, the others, yeah, well, actually, this is exactly what we want to see for, you know, coming out of this toggle node is holding on to step number one, you know, until step number one crosses or changes directions, right? So for, right. So anyway, so back here, let's just kind of go back to here. So, yeah, going back to here, right? Step one, and then we hold on to step one until we get to the signal mark, and then we turn basically step one off, right? So we turn the toggle node off, and so we're not going to get any false signals back here. So what I had to do is, you know, if you remember this guy here, for step 4, if this step 4 logic, if it ever produced a short signal while we're waiting for a long, you know, a possible long setup, so remember, right, this is our, you know, this is our potentially a long, you know, the long setup, you know, for a long signal. So if we ever get a short signal during this, you know, setup process, you know, for step 2, 3, and 4, right, that was, you know, so these short signals was the disqualification anywhere along the chain here for step 2 and 3. So if we got a short signal in here, I was using that to turn off the toggle nodes, right, using the opposite signal. But instead, I turned the, you know, opposite signal, I turned it off, so no action means it's off. You know, this function is not working. And instead, I'm using the signal. So I'm actually using long signals to turn off the toggle node when the toggle node is holding on to long signals, right? So again, let's look at the toggle node, right? So we have a long cross up here, a long cross up. So the toggle node takes that long crossover signal and it holds on to it. So it's holding on to a long signal. But I'm using long signals to also turn the toggle node off. So what I did is, so remember, this is our step 4 here, that if it produced a short signal anywhere in this area, that was the disqualifier to kill, you know, to kill this long signal here. So what I did is I put it into a long short modifier and using the swap mode, right? So the swap mode here took any short signals out of this, you know, the disqualification signals, and converted them to long signals. So coming out of this, I now have long signals, which are the disqualification signals, you know, to basically kill this long setup. And so I have this long short modifier going into this OR node. And then what I also had to do, so this was kind of the extreme part of it here, is I had to rebuild the logic here. So yeah, let me try and yeah, try and get these leaders as best we can here, right? So yeah, if we look down here, right, basically it's a bunch of toggle nodes and a couple of AND nodes. So what I did is I built a simplified version, you know, of this logic here, right? I took these toggle nodes and the AND nodes, you know, the look back nodes, and, you know, created a simple version of it because I didn't need to actually reset any of these. I didn't need to reset any of these toggle nodes here. Luckily, you know, sometimes you might, sometimes you don't, but, you know, I just created a very simplified version of the signal, right? So this is a simplified version of all this, which produces a signal here. So if I, if we look at this AND node, right? If we look at this AND node, we are getting a signal on the signal bar here, but we're also getting, some false positive signals here as well, right? We're getting some dirty signals, but that's okay, because remember, this logic here is just being used as a reset, right? So I'm using the signal on the signal bar as a reset as well, right? And so I fed it, right? So I took the there. Let's name this here. So basically, let's see here. What should we call this? There, signal bar reset. Okay. Yeah. So basically, we're getting a signal on the signal bar, and we're just using it for reset purposes. So it's okay, right, that it has these false positives in here. That's fine. And then, of course, I put it into a look back node to displace it by 1. All right, so if we look at the displace by 1, right, so our reset is 1 bar after the signal bar, right? So remember, this is our signal bar here. And so we want to turn these toggle nodes off after the signal bar. So there you go. So this delays the reset signal, right, by 1 bar. And I'm just going to move it over here, something like that. And so this is going in to our OR node, right, which is going into the reset of this toggle node. There. Right. So that is how we're getting the toggle node to go to last, or you're right, our toggle node is only on from the crossover until we get to the signal bar, and then it's turned off. So I think that'll work. Yeah, I need to come back and zoom in here, right? So this step number 3 toggle node, step number 2 toggle node. If you remember right now, this look back is disconnected. It's not doing anything right now. So I might just delete this completely out of this system. So, but first, let's just kind of look at things. Let's look at the signals for now. So let's go through the chart and see how things look, basically. All right, so we have the crossover, moving averages crossover, and then the bar, right, touches or basically penetrates through the slow moving average, and then we get a bar pullback to the fast moving average. Yep. Cool. So there's that. That looks good. Let's see what we have down here. All right, we have the moving average crossover. We have a bar touching the slow moving average. And then we finally get our bar touching the fast moving average. And there's our short signal. And let's see. Here's our crossover. The bars are above the fast moving average. And then we get a bar that touches the fast moving average. There we go. 2 signals. So clean this up just a little bit. So we're going to grab a signal blocker. All right, as soon as this is done calculating, There. All right, so with the signal blocker, let's see. Oh, it's still calculating. All right, there. So we only need to block for, yeah, I think so far all I've seen is just one bar. There. Okay. Oh, let's see how many days of data do I have here. Let's shorten this down a little bit. All right. Well, I'm on a much slower computer, so yeah, it's gonna take a little bit longer to calculate stuff being on a slower computer. All right, there we go. Well, let's see here. All right, so we have our crossover. You know, these bars are above our slow moving average. So right, step 2, and then we get a pullback to the fast moving average, and there we go. There's our signal. And let's see, we have our cross down. Let's see, yeah, none of the bars have a body on the other side, right, of the SMA 20. So there's no disqualification there. Let's see, we get a bunch of bars that are touching the EMA 10. There you go. And then finally, let's see, well, oh, yeah, that's right. So we had to get step 1. So there we go. That crossover step 1, we had to get a candle touching the slow moving average, and then we had to get a candle touching the fast moving average. Yeah. All right. Cool. Let's see what we have here. We have a crossover. Prices, yeah, are above the slow moving average. And then, yeah, and then as soon as price comes back and touches our EMA 10, then we're good to go. Yeah, that's our, yeah, that's our step. Let's see, what step was that? Step 3. Yeah, step 3. Step 3 could also be step 4. Yeah, step 3 was touching the fast moving average. All right, yeah, so this was step 3 and step 4. Cool, so that one's in good shape. Let's see what else we got here. Okay, we have our crossover. Crossover. All the bars, you know, basically the bars are below our slow moving average, so that'd be step 2. And then step 3 and 4 is the same bar. So the bar that touches our fast moving average is step 3, and step 4 is the body being below the white moving average. Yep, the body of the candle's below it. Okay, let's see what else we got. Let's evaluate this one here. There's our crossover. And also we have the candles touching the slow moving average. And then when we get our pullback. All right, we get our pullback, which is step 3 and step 4. Yep, so step 3 is touching the fast moving average, and step 4 is the body of the candle being above the 20 period SMA. Yeah, all right, so far so good. I'm just gonna scan through these a little faster and just kind of evaluate them a little faster here. So here's a funny situation where it looks like one candle qualified all 4 steps, although we need step 1 and 2 to be at least 1 bar behind step 3 and 4. So let me take a look at our logic here. So I want to take a look at the crossover. Yeah, so we had a crossover, then a cross down, then a cross back up. Yeah, so we actually have step 1 and 2 happening on the same bar. So we have our moving averages crossing. This bar is above the slow moving average. Yeah, maybe we need to make some adjustments here. Yeah, so maybe we need to restrict or tighten up step number 2 here, because it says the candle must touch the 40 SMA. So it doesn't have to close above, just has to touch it. And so a lot of these, you know, the candles aren't actually touching the 40, right? We kind of took a shortcut here and just said, you know, hey, if the high of the bar, you know, is above the 40 SMA, then, you know, that's basically a touch. Which, you know, like I said earlier, that's technically not the correct way to define a touch with the logic. Just looking at the high price being above it. We also need to make sure that the low is below, right? So when you're technically, a touch would be the high price above the moving average, but also the low price needs to be below it, right? Because right now this candle is completely above our slow moving average, right? So it's not touching it, it's completely above it, completely separated from it. So yeah, so let's tighten up that condition here. So here's rule number 2. Yeah, we're gonna tighten this up, and this will get rid of a lot of yeah, it's gonna get rid of a lot of signals, but it's also gonna clean up this you know, this signal here as well. Well, actually, let's plug that back in. There you go. Yeah, so all right, yeah, so it's gonna clean up this kind of, yeah, because there's our touch. So we actually might end up with this signal here because we got a touch, and then, yeah, price moves up, and then price touches our EMA 10, and that should be the signal, I think. But anyway, case, yeah, it'll clean this up here. So we're gonna, you know, kind of add another comparison solver to make sure that step number 2 is truly a touch. And we're not gonna take a shortcut by just checking the high of the bar or the low of the bar, you know, and making sure that it's on one side of the moving average, because that's not a true touch. So let's let me go to the solvers tab. I'm going to grab the number 2, make a copy of it, and I'm going to, let's see here, I'm going to, for long, reverse these prices. And every time I change the price here, it's recalculating on the fly. And I'll show you guys a little tip here. So, you know, if you're building a system on a chart with a lot of data, I'll show you a little shortcut there. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the auto update off. Right? So basically what this does is it turns off the auto calculation here. So I can now go in here, change these prices, and you can see BloodHound's not trying to calculate stuff on the fly anymore. So I can go in here and make all my changes quickly without having to wait for BloodHound to try and recalculate everything on the fly. Okay, I want the low below. I should adjust the name here. There we go. All right, so this time I want the low price to be below the SMA 40. And I want the high to be above, the SMA 40. Okay, so there we go. There's the extra solver we needed. Right, there's the 2 of the number 2 solver that we need to properly define a touch. So, all right, so let's go to our solver nodes, existing nodes, And there's that new number 2 solver that we made. And let's move this down. All right, so we need to put both of these into an AND node. Basically, kind of like, what we did down here. And let's disconnect that. And so that goes into our toggle node. And we also have this leader coming way down here. Where is it going into? Right there, okay. So we're going to take this AND node. And there you go. Connect it up right there. There. All right. So this right here is the proper way to create or define a touch logic here. And let's see, how are we doing here? All right. So let me turn the auto update back on, and yeah, hold on. So yeah, little message says press, BloodHound template has changed, press the apply button. But of course, when you turn the auto update back on, the apply button disappears. So let's just turn it back off for a moment, hit the apply button, let it do its calculation. Then when it's done, I'll turn the auto update back on. There. All right, so we have our crossover. Yeah, we have, let's zoom in here. There we go. We have our crossover. And then, actually, I think, remember we have a cross up and then like a cross down, like cross back up. So anyways, I think, yeah, this is, actually, I need to check these crossovers again here. Oh, apply that. Okay, so this is the cross up. All right, so that's our step 1 right there. So let's mark this here. Step 1. Okay, step 1. And then do we ever get a step 2? Oh, step 2 happened way back there. Yeah, see, step 2 happened first. Yeah, we'll have to take we'll have to make some more adjustments here. Yeah, because step 2 happened before step 1. All right, yeah, this will be easy to fix here. Okay, so I'm gonna grab the logic for step 1, disconnect it, and I'm gonna connect it into that. Yeah, let me turn the auto update back off here. And I think we have a circular reference somewhere. Oh, we do. Interesting. All right. Yeah, so you notice how I can't connect this to the AND node there? Yeah, it's not letting me connect that because we have a circular reference. So this AND node is going down into this toggle node, into this AND node, into this look back, to this AND node, back to this look back, and then going back into this OR node and back into the toggle node. So if I connected that, we basically would be creating a circular reference. So, so this is not quite as, let's see, straightforward. All right, so I still need to get step one. Step one needs to be basically a permissive. It needs to come first before step two. Here, let's zoom in here a little bit, guys. There we go. How's that? So, all right, so this AND node step two. But yeah, I need to make sure that we have the crossover in the right direction first. Yeah, before step two. Yeah. All right, here, I'm gonna adjust my chart data again. There. Let's see, where were we at? There. All right, so I need to mark these here. Yeah, so we notice, okay, so there, zoom in here a little bit. This is what I'm looking at, right? So I have step number two connected into the result node. Remember, I put these little triangles on here to tell me the cross ups here, because we had a bunch of, right, we had a cross up, cross down, cross up. So I can see that the candle that's touching for step two is on the cross down. So what I need is, obviously I need the EMA 10 to be above the SMA 20, right? I need the EMA 10 above the SMA 20 to know that we had a crossover condition. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a third solver here that's going to make sure that the EMA 10 is either above the SMA 20 when we're looking for a long, right? Or that the EMA 10 is below the SMA 20 if we're looking for a short, right? So we're looking for a long, so I'm going to make sure that, yeah, the 10 is above. And if we're looking for a short condition, I'll make sure that the EMA 10 is below. And so for that, we'll just grab another comparison solver. Oops. Connect that. There we go. Connect that in. And all right, so this is so we're just comparing the EMA 10 to the SMA 20 here. All right, so input A will be our EMA 10. Like so. Input B, that'll be our SMA 20. Like so. There. Oh, let's turn the, yeah, let's hit apply. There we go. Turn the auto update back on. Okay, there we go. So what we're looking at, so we can see, all right, so remember we have a, if we look at our triangles, right, we're in a crossed up condition here. So basically, you know, we might, so we're going to be looking for maybe a long signal here, right? Because we have a cross up condition here. And, but more importantly, right, this step number 2, it's a short, we're only getting a short signal. So this short signal, right, is not going to work when we're trying to build a long signal. So basically we kind of canceled out this step number 2, you know, candle here by getting rid of the long signal. So it's just a short only. So now, if I come back here, all right, let's look at this AND node. So this AND node, remember I marked it here, number 1 and number 2. So remember our little dot here is marking number 1, which is our moving average crossover. There we go. Here's step 2. Oops. And where's the circle? There. There you go. There's step 2. All right, so we have 1 and 2. Great. And then, let's see. Cool. I think I think that candle is basically, see, that's step 2. Yeah, this would be step 3 and step 4. Yeah, so I think we should get a signal there. All right, let's see what happens. And no signal. Oh, right. I had deleted this triangle, which I put here because this triangle just was a disqualifying bar. That's right. Remember, this bar, the open and the close, was below our SMA 20. So this is a disqualification bar. And yep, and it killed the signal. Perfect. Yep, everything worked great. Okay. Let's take another look here. So, all right. Yeah, so we did get a lot of signals here kind of removed by cleaning up step number 2. Yep. So this signal here, when I'm looking at this actually looks, oh, no, this is right. Okay. Yeah, so we have, yeah, I should mark this here. Yeah, so that's step 1. Step 2, that's the bar that touched. Yeah, so this candle did touch our SMA 40. Yep, and then step 3 and 4 is on the same bar. Perfect. Okay, all good. Yep, looks good. That's our step 2, and then step 3 and 4. Okay, good. All right, I'm just gonna, quietly evaluate all of these and see if I can find any signals here that look peculiar or look like they're off by a little bit. All right, yeah, I think everything looks good. I think tightening up that step number 4. Sorry guys. Tightening up step number 2, making sure that bar was a proper touch bar of our slow moving average. Yeah, it seemed to really clean things up a lot. So yeah, sometimes you can't always take shortcuts. So, there. All right, so let's take a look at the logic here. And so looking through all this, everything looks good. So I need to go back and revisit, this unused node here. So this actually was not required. So I'm going to delete it. And then I can also get rid of a bunch of these OR nodes as well. And yeah, let me turn off the auto update here. Yeah, so this OR node is no longer necessary. I can just delete it, connect that into the reset. Right, this OR node here, again, there's only one leader coming into this OR node, so I can just disconnect it and tie that straight in. And I think that was it. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so that cleans that up a little bit. Yeah, let's just kind of finish naming some of these nodes here. All right, well, that was a good exercise. There was a lot learned in this one.